Trump's 2025 Tariff Revolution, Understanding the Economic Earthquake. As we speak today, April 9th, 2025, the United States is experiencing the most dramatic reshaping of trade policy in over a century. Just 1 week ago, on April 2nd, President Trump announced sweeping tariff changes that economists are calling one of the most consequential economic policy changes of our lifetime. Let's break down what's happening. The administration has created a multi-layered tariff system unlike anything we've seen in modern times. First, there's a universal 10% baseline tariff on virtually all imports. Second, there are reciprocal tariffs on about 60 countries with trade surpluses against the U.S. These range from 20% for the European Union all the way to 49% for Cambodia. Third, separate tariffs target specific countries like China, which now faces duties potentially exceeding 100% when all layers are combined. The stock markets have reacted with unprecedented volatility. In just 2 days following the announcement, the U.S. market lost $6.6 trillion in value, the largest two-day loss ever recorded. Gold prices have surged past $360 per ounce as investors seek safety. But what does this mean for you and me? According to the Yale Budget Lab, these tariffs will increase overall prices by about 2.3%, costing the average American household approximately $3,800 annually. Everything from clothing to electronics to groceries will become more expensive. For example, a simple toddler clothing set from Cambodia could rise from $24 to nearly $36. Your morning coffee might cost almost $1 more per package. This animation you're watching represents how these price increases ripple through the economy. When imports become more expensive, businesses must either absorb these costs, reducing their profits, or pass them along to consumers, fueling inflation. President Trump has offered multiple justifications for these dramatic measures. He argues they'll reduce America's $1.2 trillion trade deficit, ensure reciprocity in global trade, enhance national security, revitalize domestic manufacturing, combat issues like fentanyl trafficking, and generate significant government revenue. However, most economists strongly disagree with this approach. They project that rather than strengthening the economy, these tariffs will reduce U.S. GDP growth by nearly 1 percentage point this year and potentially eliminate over 700,000 jobs. The Tax Foundation estimates the average household will face what amounts to a $1,500 tax increase. Our trading partners aren't sitting idle either. China has already announced retaliatory tariffs on American exports like soybeans, corn, and energy products. Canada has imposed 25% duties on $105 billion worth of U.S. goods. The European Union is targeting politically sensitive exports like bourbon and Harley-Davidson motorcycles. This animation illustrates how retaliatory tariffs create a dangerous cycle of escalation. Public opinion is sharply divided. Recent polls show about 56 or 61% of Americans oppose the tariffs, primarily concerned about rising prices. The divide falls predictably along partisan lines. Approximately 70% of Republicans support the measures, while only about 10% of Democrats do. Congress appears reluctant to challenge the president, despite many Republicans expressing private concerns. Senator Chuck Grassley has introduced legislation requiring presidential justification for new tariffs, but its prospects remain uncertain. Is this tariff strategy brilliance or madness? Supporters call it necessary leverage to force trading partners into fairer practices. Critics call it an economically self-destructive policy based on flawed premises that will harm American consumers and businesses. What's clear is that these tariffs represent a dramatic escalation compared to Trump's first term. They're broader in scope, affecting over $2.4 trillion in imports compared to $380 billion previously. They're being implemented more rapidly and rely on more legally questionable authorities like the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Looking ahead, several scenarios could unfold. Trading partners might cave to pressure, leading to negotiated rollbacks. We could face a protracted trade war with continued economic damage. Overwhelming negative consequences might force policy reversal, or we might simply muddle through with chronic uncertainty. What's certain is that we're witnessing a high-stakes experiment in economic policy that's already reshaping global trade. Whether it will achieve the administration's stated goals or lead to lasting economic harm remains a trillion-dollar question hanging over markets, businesses, and households across America and around the world.